Rachele, welcome to the show. It's wonderful to have you on. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. It's great to be here. How's your morning going? I guess
Do
evening
you
for
know
you.
what? It's mid-afternoon. It's a sort of mid-afternoon thing, but I'm guessing the time difference implies you somewhere on the East Coast?
I am in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay, cool. Is
hmm
that East Coast? My US geography is terrible. That's sort of east mid?
It's pretty east. It's pretty east. It's like it's the south, like south, yeah. But it's still East Coast time zone.
Okay. Well, I am sitting here in London, which I know you spent a bit of time in. I want to talk to you about that. But first of all,
I
let's
did.
talk about your new movie, Love, Courage, and the Battle of Bushy Run. I will say I very much enjoyed the moment at the start where it goes, this is a little known battle, because I had no idea about this. And I do enjoy a movie that teaches me history, and full transparency, I get most of my historical knowledge from film. But how much did you know about this story before you joined the film?
Next to nothing. Truly had never heard this story before. And it was fun for me to learn as well. When I got the audition, I did some research into, the character because they're like, oh, she's a real person, and which is always so much fun and always my favorite because you get to really dive into the research and try to bring someone to life. And so then I kind of fell in love with the story. I became a little bit obsessed with her. And of course, Colonel Bouquet as well, and learning all about that. And then having the opportunity to bring these characters to life with Tom Connolly was just a blast.
So I'll do a very, very quick synopsis of the film because, as I said, I think it's a great film for people to discover, like as they're watching it. But it does feature. It's sort of on one hand, it's British officer Colonel Henry Bouquet and his attempts to quell a Native American uprising, and then on the other hand, it's his relationship with your character, who, as you said, is a real person, Anne
Mm-hmm.
Willing. So let's start with when you read the script and what appealed to you about taking on the role of Anne.
Great question. I shouldn't say very rarely respond to scripts, but it's rare that something will grab me to where I become obsessed and then I spend all of my time 24/7 obsessively preparing a character. And that happened to me here. There was just something actually about the cadence of the writing, which is, credit to Charlie Richards, our writer, that just really resonated with me. It felt like her words were just like, they felt so natural and true to me. And I just love the earnestness with which she loved Henry Bouquet, this character, and also her independence as a woman during that time. Whether or not that was the case, potentially different story. Obviously, women during that time didn't have as much influence or power. They were just expected to marry. But the character of Anne Willing was actually a very political character. She achieved a lot in her own right for a woman of the time. And I thought that was fascinating, and they just felt very strong together. And I was just interested to display that on film.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. She is an interesting character, and I did try. I mean, granted, I probably didn't spend as long as you because I wasn't in the film. But
It's
I
probably
did
good.
try. I did try and dig around on the old internet, some the corners of the internet, looking for some information on her, and it's quite sparse from where I looked. But there are these famous letters that
Yes.
that Henry Bouquet wrote to Anne during this campaign, right?
That's correct. Yeah. And then I found some of the letters, and you can see, I mean, Henry Bouquet's journals are actually, they're out there, which I think is so interesting, fascinating. You can see them mention each other, they bring each other up. And to have material like that from the 1700s is so cool, so rare. And there's very few photographs of her as well. And I kind of was just like pouring through that imagery. And obviously, she was a wealthier character because of who her family was. And so they had pictures of her, which I thought was so much fun. Just not always the case for people at that time.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because obviously, as we've said, this is a period piece. But I think some of the themes that Anne, your character, she deals with in the movie are very resonant today. Because what we're talking about here is a woman who doesn't want to be with someone because he is in military service and he's going off to war, and she doesn't want to spend days and days literally worrying about him. And it's only when the war's over that she goes, okay, we're on, let's do this. And then obviously the war starts again. But the whole idea of marrying someone in military service, that does resonate through time, right?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you don't pick who you love, which is the case here because she was very, very opposed to war, to battle, to violence. And again, like you mentioned, she refuses to be with him until she thinks the war is over. And then, of course, the story is about how it's really not. But that does resonate. It's like the idea of saying goodbye to a loved one and sending them off to fight in a war that obviously for the time was an important battle, which is what the story of this film really tells. And she recognizes that he's the only person who really can do this, which is why she kind of sends him off into battle and decides to wait for him, with hope, as I think we all wait for, our military who leave home and go into battle, and we hope they return to us. But it's hard, it's like to think that you'd never see the person that you love again is just devastating. And we hope not, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You mentioned Tom Connolly, your romantic interest in the movie as Henry Bouquet. Is it weird? This might seem like a strange question, but obviously, like, you have great chemistry together on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But where you've been in romantic comedy before, and that was contemporary set.
Yes.
So obviously, we're dealing with a chemistry that people watching go, "Oh, I get that." Is it more difficult in a period film to get that chemistry across because of how people behaved back then?
I mean, you do have certain limitations. Like, so there was this whole thing as well in the film where the directors, there's a kiss at the end, spoiler alert. But they didn't want us to kiss at all in the film because of the time. They're like, you would never kiss. And we're like, but we need the moment. Like, let's defy what the norm was because the people need it. But I think actually in many ways it could be of benefit because you don't have the same things available to you. Like in a modern, obviously in like a more modern film, you might be able to, touch the other person or kind of have sort of physical touch or things like that would be accepted in today's world. But because you can't touch or you can't express your care or love or interest in other ways, it has to be energetic. So in a way, it almost feels like you're allowed to have that, I don't know, that little bit percolating underneath the scenes that is forced because you can't do as much. So it makes the air a little thicker in a good way.
I kind of wish I'd been around in that period, largely because the dancing that took place then, I reckon I could handle. I like the palms and the walking around and the bowing. Even I could manage that.
You could still do that in the club.
Yeah, I might try that. I might try that. Hey, your co-star then, Tom Connolly. He's British. He is British. So obviously, British accent. He's got no problem with that. I did see a video of you on your Instagram a while ago practicing and having some fun with practicing a British accent. As I said before we started, we do our research on this show.
You really went deep. I'm impressed that you found that video because I know the video you're talking about. I'm impressed.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
Thank you.
Did it require a lot of work? Like having spent time here, as we said at the start, do you kind of know the right cadence for an English accent?
I mean, I feel like, well, thank you. I hope that is true. We'll see if the Brits come for me after the movie is released, whether or not this is full honesty here. But I think obviously British is one of those accents in, school and I don't know, just obviously that you do a little more frequently than other accents. So I had it a little more in the pocket than the average. But I did work on it a lot during the audition because I knew that it was required and I really, really wanted the part. So I focused on it. And of course I had Tom to, slap me on the wrist anytime, I made a blunder, which was highly fortunate. Even in my audition, I never dropped the accent. They didn't even know that I was from the US until I actually got to the first table read.
Oh my God.
I never dropped it.
That's fantastic. I've never heard. There's only one other time I remember reading about Hugh Laurie in House when he got the role of House in the medical drama. He did the same thing. That when he finally broke character, they were like, "Oh my God, you're English." They thought they got from like America, but that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't want any reason for them to be like, well, this is a girl from Chicago. We can't have her because, the character is supposed to be British. And so I didn't want to give them a reason to not cast me. And they even asked me where I was from in the audition. And I said Chicago in a British accent. And they were like, really? Well, and they tried to get me to drop it. And I was like, it's not happening. I'm not giving you a reason to not see me as this part.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I guess I should say as well, when I said, you spent some time here, so I guess you had it down. like, I don't want to add fuel to this misconception that we all speak the Queen's English in this country, because I think that's not how Londoners speak anymore. Or anyone in the UK, really, really. So you did spend time here. How much did you enjoy studying? It was at the famous RADA, the acting school in
Yeah.
London,
Hmm.
the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. How was that? Did you enjoy your time here?
I did. And technically it was a summer program, so I only got to do a few months of it. But I had such a blast. I mean, London's amazing and I have dear friends there. Anytime I get to go back, I try to. It's just such a beautiful city, beautiful country. I love the people. But that was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, well, it is a fun city. It is a fun city. Where are you spending your time now? I know you're visiting Atlanta at the moment. Where do you tend to spend most of your time?
Well, I live in Los Angeles. I live in Los Angeles, and then my husband's family lives here in Atlanta, which we're visiting them. So getting a little stand, and we filmed the movie here, so it's appropriate that we're speaking from Atlanta.
Oh, that's a blessing, isn't it? Look, those tax breaks in Atlanta right now. God, the entire movie industry's there. The entire movie.
We love a tax break. It's true. Everything's moving away from LA. Like if you get to shoot in LA, it's a gift.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. The number of times I've had to cover films in America, I'm always in Atlanta these days. I think
Really?
the whole of Marvel seems to shoot in Atlanta.
It's true.
Yeah, speaking of Marvel, you were building up quite an eclectic CV. We mentioned Marvel just then. You were in the series Legion, created by the genius that is Noah Hawley. I'm a little bit in love and in awe of that man, right? Isn't he great?
Same. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
The rom-com I mentioned, One Last Night. Now you're in a period romantic war movie. What is the decision-making that you do? Like, is it that you are looking for roles that offer a new challenge, something you haven't done before, like breaking new ground for you as an actor? Or is it simply, the right role at the right time?
I mean, in some part, it is the right role at the right time, because obviously the luxury of being cast, it doesn't, every role you go out for doesn't come your way. You audition, however, probably so many times before one really, really clicks and hits. And a lot of the times it is the ones that, you resonate with, and that you see something on the page and you're just like, oh, I love this so much. And then for some reason you come alive, then you book, and it all seems like this symbiotic thing. And so some of it is just, they're interested in me, I'm interested in the role, and it becomes this happy marriage of artist and project. But yeah, sometimes it is nice to have a new challenge. I am a deep lover of period pieces. So this was like my little artist spirit truly coming to life, because give me a period piece, give me a rom-com. That is me, happy all day, every day. Next is inspirational sports movie, and then I'll have completed all of my dreams.
Oh, good. Well, I certainly know one of those genres is going to be coming up as we go on our trip. We're going to talk more about your movie and career as we go on our journey today, because time now to leave this reality and enter a dimension of pure film where our virtual cinema awaits. You are our guide. We are your audience. Let's go on your perfect trip to the movies. So
I can't wait.
Good. I can't wait either. We push open the doors to our temple of film and find ourselves in the foyer. There's an excited buzz, as there always is in a cinema foyer. The hum of anticipation. It's your perfect cinema trip. So who have you picked, living or dead, to go with you?
I have chosen the great, the wonderful Sandra Bullock.
Oh my gosh. This is the first time Sandra's been picked. Tell me why.
Well, the first. I'm happy that she's coming with me. I've picked her because I think she's perfect. I am a unabashed Sandy Bullock fan. I love all her films. I think she's hilarious. Her timing is just so perfect. She's charming. She's gorgeous. She makes great choices. And obviously she's an incredible dramatic actress as well. But I feel like she's got the full package. In many ways, she was one of the reasons I became an actor. I think she's brilliant. So anything she's doing, I want to know about it. And I just want to meet her. I think she's the one person that I would be like truly mind-numbingly starstruck. So it may be a very silent movie watch of me just, white knuckling the seats next to me, being like, oh my God, Sandra Bullock is next to me right now. But I would enjoy it deep within my soul the whole time.
So do you remember your first time watching Sandra Bullock? Was there a movie that you discovered her and was like, who is that?
It was 100% While You Were Sleeping, which is probably my most watched film of all time.
Really? That's your most watched film of all time. Now, remind me if I'm. So this is Bill Pullman. Is
Yes.
the brother of a man who Sandra
It's Peter
Bullock
Gallagher.
Right, Peter Gallagher.
Yep.
Now, does it still stand up? I always remember it being. Was it slightly creepy that she pretends to be in a relationship with a man who is unconscious?
It's totally creepy. It's like, if you actually think about the reality of it, you're like, girl, what you doing? Get out of here. So it's not great, but there's something about it. I just find her so charming, and it's just one of those family favorites as well. Like, me and my mom used to watch that growing up and just die laughing. The family's antics are so hilarious. It's just so cozy. It's a cozy watch. I'll put it on if I'm ever sad and just leave it on in the background. It's a feel good.
Oh yeah, I like to call those warm duvets of movies where you just wrap yourself up in them.
I like that. It is definitely my warmest duvet.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were born in Chicago, and isn't that movie set in Chicago?
It is. That's right. Wow. I've never,
Yeah.
That's true. That's right. Well done. You're connecting dots that I am not even connecting. So it's subtle.
I weirdly only remember that because of the trains, the famous Chicago trains. I can't remember what they're called. The L line? Is it the L line?
The L. That's right. It's the L.
The L train. Got you. All right, good. It's you and Sandra Bullock going to the cinema. Now, there is a clock on the wall reading a specific time. What time of day are we going to the cinema?
I think we're going at 7:30 p.m.
7:30.
Not that key.
7:30 p.m. So that's famously a busy screening. That's normally when most people go to the cinema. You like that? You like a full auditorium?
I like that. You got to feel the buzz of energy, like people reacting to the film, the scream. I feel like it enhances the experience, and it's perfect. You can get like a little early dinner, or you can go after. It depends. You can like really craft your evening around this time, depending on what you're wanting. Late night, early night, could be anything.
And I have to ask, because I completely agree with you. I think it's part of the reason we do this show, the communal experience of watching a movie with an audience of strangers and all experiencing the same things together is wonderful. Have you had chance to sit down and watch Love, Courage, and the Battle of Bushy run with an audience yet?
I haven't. I got on during our screening where they did the full big screening where we had obviously cast and crew and special invites. I got COVID the day before.
No.
And I was like miserably sick in bed, and I was the only one who wasn't there. I was having the most massive FOMO. I sent my mom and my aunt in my place to go represent, and I missed it. I literally had to watch it alone at home, like basically on my home screen. But I haven't gotten to see it with a group yet.
Well, but I imagine you are going to be able to do that wonderful and scary thing of watch it with a public audience, because I know that I remember Christopher Nolan was saying that even he got scared when he watched Oppenheimer with a genuine public audience when it opens. But you're going to experience that with this movie.
It's true. It is so terrifying. Watching yourself on screen is very difficult as an actor, which I'm sure is not something new to you. I'm sure most people say this? Is this the average response?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever met an actor who goes, I love it. I absolutely
obsessed.
Cannot wait to get in there.
It is nauseating. Usually it's, again, similar white knuckling to as if I were next to Sandra Bullock here. When you watch yourself, it's truly terrifying, because it's hard to, even when you're watching a film that you love, that you're in and you believe in, it's so hard to separate yourself, because like what you were thinking, what was happening that day when you were shooting it, all of the weird behind the scenes stuff, if you've got something, I don't know, like you're just all the secrets are hard not to see as an actor, that the audience never knows, but it's almost impossible for me to separate those things.
Of course, it's you've seen behind the curtain, as you're doing a scene, and we're like transported to 1763, and you can, there's like 200 crew standing behind a camera looking directly at you. I get it.
It's true.
What was the feedback from your family who you did send to the premiere though? Did they like it?
Oh, I mean, well, they're my biggest fans, so of course to them it was the next Titanic in their mind. So they were.
I mean, you say that. I don't know. I got Titanic vibes from it. I think it's something
of course.
action and romance. Action and love. Anyway, yeah. Well,
it's true.
I hope you have a good time when you finally get to go and see it in the cinema. Right.
Thank you.
You booked the tickets for this trip. Please tell us where we're sitting in the auditorium.
We are pretty much always sitting second row from the back in the center.
Okay.
Just like, yeah.
That's interesting. So that's half the most popular answer on the show, which is the
Really?
middle of a row. But everyone normally chooses the middle row as well. You want to be further back. Why is that? Any particular?
Yeah, I want to be, I don't know. I like the full view of the screen. I don't want to be like in the dead center of the action. I feel like, I don't know. There's just something about kicking back and like seeing everyone else in front of you react as well. And yeah, but I don't want to be in like the very last row because that seems like I'm, some sort of a recluse. I'm not participating. So we need to do second from the back. So it's almost, but not quite.
I'm putting you and Sandra second row from the back in the middle. The final thing we need before we leave the foyer and start our journey to the auditorium is, the air's full of wonderful smells. All manner of snacks and foodstuffs are available at the various counters. What are you choosing to eat?
For sure, popcorn. Probably a large since Sandy and I are sharing. Want to make sure she has enough. And then plain M&Ms every time without fail.
So plain M&Ms they're the original milk chocolate M&Ms.
Original milk chocolate. We don't go peanut. I'm a purist when it comes to chocolate, and we're not throwing any nuts in there.
Now, let me throw you a curveball here, because obviously in America, you have butter popcorn, and here in the UK, I don't know if you got a chance to experience it. We do sweet or salted, but butter is not an option here. So what are you going with?
Whoa, you guys don't. I mean, obviously, I'm going salted, but sweet. What are you doing with sweet? Is this like caramel popcorn? Or kettle corn? Is that the deal?
I don't know how I've never actually done a deep dive on how they sweeten it, but yeah, it's just I assume it's just a kind of sugary thing. It doesn't have it's not like chocolate or caramel or anything like that. It's more just sugar. But so are you having salted but with butter or no butter?
If butter is an option, I'm definitely going butter. I mean, I don't know, like salt and butter to me, they go hand in hand. Hard to deviate. I can't believe that you don't have butter. Like, what's the binding agent for the salt?
It's a great question. It's a great question. The reason that has come up previously, we're talking about pulling back the curtain on various things, is that whatever the let's inverted commas butter is that is served in American theaters probably isn't allowed here because of differing food standards things, because I've heard it really isn't butter.
So you're not just automatically choosing foods that kill you instantly like we are? So we love that. We love our life to be put at risk at all moments with our food.
Do you know what? I'd forego our food standards just to have that butter. I mean, how often? I'm not going to the cinema that much. I reckon I'd rather pollute my body with, because it looks gorgeous. It looks terrifying. It looks almost sentient, but it looks delicious.
It's true. It is true. Looks delicious. Looks better than it tastes, to be honest. It almost doesn't taste like butter, probably because it's not really butter. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those comfort tastes. We've grown up with it. You got to have it.
Yeah. We had Paul Walter Hauser on the show once. Oh, yeah.
You did your research.
Oh wait, no, this is outside my research. Why? Why?
Paul Walter Hauser is one of our dearest friends. He literally officiated my wedding.
Oh my God!
Seriously? Is this totally random?
This is a complete bit of serendipity that we talked about butter, and I know this time I can't even claim research. He said it was probably horse plasma.
Amazing.
But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, he's so much. I mean, you know this because he's your friend. He's great, isn't he?
He's great. I mean, Paul is one of the funniest guys in the world and also one of the kindest men in the world as well. Yeah, he was literally roommates with my husband for, I think, 7 years before, they met on Craigslist randomly. Before either of them had ever kind of taken off professionally. I think Paul was working at Five Guys, from Italy, which is like a burger joint when they met. Yeah. And yeah, he's a great guy and obviously an incredibly talented and gifted actor.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, he's been very kind to me. I hosted his movie premiere of Richard Jewell when it came out in London, and that's where we.
You did.
Yeah, he's great fun. Really good guy.
I love that so much. What a fun little bit of serendipity here. Yeah, he's fantastic, and obviously Richard Jewell is a great movie as well. He's so talented. Beyond.
I imagine you saw it, but he was great in the Apple series, Blackbird as well. Blew my
Oh,
mind.
beyond. I know. And some new fun, exciting stuff. I think it was just announced on Deadline that he's got a new, like he's going to be Chris Farley in the new biopic that's developing as well. He's about to play that. So exciting. He's just, yeah, he's tremendous.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was a fun bit of spontaneous bar. I love that.
I love it.
Right, time to leave the foyer on that note and head down the corridor towards the auditorium. Now, the corridor's looking a little bare right now, so we're going to put up some posters that represent some of your most important movie memories. And the first poster we're putting up is for your fondest movie memory.
Fondest movie memory is The Lion King, for sure.
This is the original 1994 anime.
Original 94 Lion King. I was 6 years old. And obviously, credit to my parents for this because the reason being is that we had all gone to sleep. They put us to bed as normal. And then they rushed into our room probably at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. When you're a kid, it feels super late. But they're like, oh my God, you have to get up. You have to get up. We're going on an adventure. And I was like, what do you mean an adventure? And so they loaded us into the car in our pajamas. And we ended up pulling up to a drive-in movie theater, which I had never been to a drive-in movie theater at that time. And they had, sleeping bags, popcorn, all the things. And we like kicked open the trunk of our station wagon. And then we watched Lion King on the big screen in our pajamas after having been like surprised awake. And it was definitely the most memorable movie experience I've ever had. And full credit to my parents. Obviously, Lion King is an incredible film. Music is flawless, so good. But it was one of those moments that I'll never forget. And just the magic of movies, it was fully alive for me in that experience.
That sounds awesome. That sounds so good. So it was a drive-in as well.
Mm-hmm. Drive-in. And it was my first drive-in, which drive-ins are so good. Have you been to a drive-in in a while?
We don't really have them here because,
public transit.
British weather as well. I mean,
that.
We've started having like summer events where they do outdoor screenings of stuff, which I kind of like the experience, but it's normally sitting on the grass. You don't get that whole proper kicking up and, like you said, the trunk of the car and that whole thing. I love that.
Yeah, it's good. It's rare these days. I mean, there's a few drive-ins peppered throughout LA, which every now and then I'll go to, but yeah, it's more rare. It's a lot of fun.
I love that description of your fondest movie memory experience. It almost sounded like an audio book written by Amblin. When Steven Spielberg was doing his proper 80s kids Amblin movies, that was nice. I was there.
Good era. Were you? Directly, yeah.
Yeah, just watching, going, I hope this comes up at some point in the future. All right, let's move on to the next movie poster we're putting up as we continue down the corridor. This is for your worst movie memory.
Oh, definitely going to be The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Teen years.
Okay, so I saved this during the Lion King thing because I didn't want to be torn apart. So I've seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose, never seen The Lion King. Please don't
stop.
It's almost got to the point where people are going, you shouldn't be doing a movie podcast because you haven't seen The Lion King.
I mean, are you just holding out? Are you just at this point just trying to hold on to that fact? Or are you just are you eventually going to dive in and know the true magic of The Lion King? Do you know the soundtrack? You've got to know.
I know Circle of Life. I got that. That's
good. Okay. Just Can't Wait to Be King. No. It's a no. All right. Eventually, yes. I'm coming to London and I'm going to sit you down and I'm going to force you to watch this movie.
I mean, but granted, it's a weird hill to die on. I'm never watching The Lion King.
So because it's a good fact that you've never seen it. So maybe you should die on this hill.
Yeah. But I have seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Tell me though why it was your worst movie experience.
That movie stayed with me. I am very, very sensitive to like supernatural films, like anything with sort of like demonic possession, anything with like that will haunt me for ages. And I am not kidding. I woke up every single night at exactly 3 a.m. for about a year after I watched that movie, having like horrible night sweats, horrible, like just absolute panic, sheer terror. I'd wake up crying. It was awful. And I'm not even kidding. It took about a year until eventually it stopped. And now I just tried to stay away from all supernatural horror films forever.
So that's really interesting. So it's not horror in general. It's the supernatural element of horror. So
Oh
like,
yeah,
so like Paranormal Activity. Okay, with that?
we're not doing it.
No,
We're
no.
not doing Paranormal Activity.
Would you
We're
like
avoiding it.
How about the original Exorcist? I mean, that's a piece of cinema history.
Absolutely not. After Exorcism, most people are like, you have to see The Exorcist. And I was like, I will definitely not be seeing The Exorcist. If this one put me into true trauma for a full 365 days, I'm not diving back in head first, volunteering for this experience again. I hear it's worse. Is it worse?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a very scary film. Yeah, I don't want you to go and see it. You know, people be going, "Where's Rachele?" And it's like, "Oh, she's still in therapy. Gonna be for a while."
She is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. God, wow, that's good. We're putting up a poster for the exorcism of Emily Rose. All right.
And then putting a blanket over that poster immediately following.
I really enjoyed it. I mean, I you know, but then I'm like, scare me, you know. The Lion King.
You're into that.
Possession, bring it on. Yeah.
Very good.
What was it? What then? Let's put up a poster. Let's move away from the terror of possession and the supernatural. Did you watch? Oh, there was a really good movie that came out just last year. Talk to Me, where you hold the hand and then you get. Do you know what? It's another possession movie. Let's move on.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we'll skip it. We'll literally skip it.
It's really good though. It's really good. If you ever decide to break your fast of horror movies, I would suggest The Exorcist and Talk to Me.
Okay, I will put those on top 2 of the list next time I want to re-traumatize myself.
The Granddaddy and the most recent. What was the last performance though that brought you to tears?
Okay, so this is kind of embarrassing, actually. So the answer to this true question is literally whichever movie I saw last, because I cry at almost everything. Every film, I just always find a time to weep. There's something, I don't know. I don't know. But the last one that I cried at was the movie I watched on the flight here, which was Theater Camp, which makes no sense.
This is a comedy mockumentary about a theater camp.
That's correct. It's basically like giving Best in Show energy. There's no reason to cry. It's hilarious. It is there's nothing sad about this movie. And yet the finale song got me so hard.
So what is there some context to the finale song? These are happy tears, I'm guessing. I imagine it ends on high, being a comedy. Okay. It's
a comedy. Yeah, it's basically the finale song of this show, which is called like Joan Still, and it's about like Amy Sedaris' character who's in a coma. It's all these little theater kids just singing this song that she came up with impromptu. It's stupid. But it's talking about how like the theater is their home, and they're like, is it home or is it kind of? And then it's just this whole little moment, and I was like, theater is home. It is kind of like home. That's right. That's so sweet. And it's talking about how, you know, it's a place for like people who are more marginalized or not normally accepted to find their place in this sort of like theater community, theater family. And I was like, that's the truth. That is the truth. And it got me.
Oh, I mean, you could argue that you get a pass though, because apparently we are all of us much more likely to cry in an aircraft. So we all cry on planes, right? That's true.
I love to cry in a plane. It feels good. Why not? Just get it out. You know, you aren't going to see these people ever again. Just, you know, fully weep, move on with your life. It's very cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah, I the montage from Up. I was watching that on a plane, and obviously, like in anywhere, that's going to break you. On a plane, though, they were messy tears when the stewardess was like, "Are you
all right,
okay,
sir?"
Yeah, the steak. Something. What's the manliest food you are serving? Because I'm not really crying. But, yeah.
I need it. But true. If I mean, I don't know if anyone's made it through the montage on Up without crying, and if you have, then sociopath. I don't know.
Dead inside, yeah.
Truly, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're putting up a poster for Theatre Camp as the last performance that brought you to tears in that final song. Okay. The final poster we need to put up before we leave the corridor and enter the auditorium proper is the poster depicts your unpopular movie opinion.
Oh, Bedazzled is a perfect film. That's that. I said it. I stand by it. It's perfect.
This is 2000's Harold Ramis directed, Brendan Fraser starring, along with Elizabeth Hurley, comedy Bedazzled.
Absolutely. That is correct. Spot on. That's the film.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. No pun intended, although actually I wish I thought of that.
That was good.
It's got 43% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not regarded generally as a perfect film. Why for you is this a perfect film?
Well, firstly, Brendan Fraser is an icon. He's a national treasure. He should be protected at all costs. And he is so funny in that movie. I mean, the amount his like transition between characters is absolutely unbelievable. I think when he switched over to the basketball player, I don't think I almost didn't survive that portion. But it's just, I don't know. It's just he switches so many times and it's just so good. It's so funny. He's so committed to everything. And obviously Elizabeth Hurley is a major babe. She is flawlessly hot in that film. It's undeniable and painful to watch. And them together is just this incredible dynamic duo. It just sends me. It sends me every time. And I do it right now. Maybe I'll do it after and I'll just have a good cry in. It's just perfect.
Does it get replayed as much as, say, while you were sleeping? Is it something you've rewatched? Because I watched it because I want to connect with you here. I think Bedazzled is brilliant. However, that is based on watching it 20 years ago. I haven't watched it since. So have you rewatched it and still maintain it's the perfect film?
I definitely rewatch it regularly. I love that movie. It's definitely a cozy watch. Not as many times as while you were sleeping because that's the most watched, but it's so funny. I'll put that film on anytime I need to laugh, and it's cozy. It takes me back, to the good old days when nothing was ever wrong. And Brendan Fraser was king.
I love it. It's a hit of nostalgia and the perfect movie, in your opinion. Bedazzled. 2000's Bedazzled is going up as our final poster. Right. We push open our final set of doors to enter the auditorium. Now, there is a queue of people hoping to join you and Sandy B in the cinema. Do you want to let them in? Do you want a busy auditorium?
Yeah, get them all in here.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah, more the merrier.
They go wild. They pour into the auditorium. Now, before we get to the movie you have picked for us to screen, we've got a few things I want to play on the big screen. And the first is the trailer for the movie you're most looking forward to seeing at the cinema.
It's Gladiator 2. I can't wait.
Tell me why, out of all movies, that's the one you're most looking forward to seeing.
Well, firstly, I loved the first Gladiator. It was so good. And as we kind of mentioned before, and we're taking it fully back, I love a period piece. Anything that kind of like is fully, you have to build the world, you're taking us back in time in history. I love that. It's just so much fun. And I can't wait to see what they do with it. I mean, obviously, I love Pedro Pascal. Obviously, he's having a moment. We all love Pedro. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. I love that story. I can't wait to see what happens next. I'm really hoping they don't mess up the sequel because obviously we know sequel dangerous. But I feel like it's been long enough now where maybe they aren't going to mess it up. I'm hopeful.
And you got Paul Mescal, who I've got a bit of a man crush on. I think he's phenomenal. And then,
so you're there for Paul, I'm there for Pedro.
Yep, seriously, it's good. Something for everyone here. And,
I know.
The people who are like, and well, it's really about Sir Ridley. They've got Sir Ridley Scott back directing it. So, this excites me. I think some people were like, what? But Ridley Scott has said he has put a scene where the hero fights some baboons in it. And this is... I think what I take from this is we all want to get to a point in our career where you can walk into a studio, your boss's office, and go, I saw a video on YouTube of some baboons attacking tourists, and I've decided to put some baboons attacking our hero in my movie. And no one goes, get out, you're off the picture.
That's true success. That's how you know. Just throw anything at the wall, and yeah, that's how you know you've made it.
Yeah. It'd be like if you'd gone. I think my character in this movie, Love, Courage, and the Battle of Bushy Run. I think she should ride a penguin at some point. It's that, and people go, fantastic. Let's put it in.
Talk to me in 10 years. When you see me riding a penguin in a film, you and I will truly know. You're like, that, it happened. She's done it.
That would be, yeah. If when I see that, I'll be like, yeah, she's made it.
It's really happened. That's when you'll call me. Then, and I'll force you to watch The Lion King, and I'll watch The Exorcist, and we'll have a good old time.
Let's talk about the fact that obviously, because of the nature of the story in Love, Courage, and the Battle of Bushy Ridge. Can I just ask? Because I keep saying the full title on set. What did you call it? Did you have a shorter name for it when you were like, "What are you doing today?" I'm on the set of.
Yes, there was an acronym. It was BOBR, Battle of Bushy Run, and so it was just like, yeah, that was it, or just Bushy Run, and then all of that.
Right. I should have asked earlier rather than saying it.
Then saying it over and over again.
Yeah. But obviously, due to the nature of the story in that film, your character was very much, on the sidelines of the action. Could you see yourself in future when you watched it? Would you be like, do you know what? I want to be part of that side of the story. I want to be there. I want a gun. I want a tomahawk. I want whatever weapon is appropriate for this film. Give it to me.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? It was sad because obviously I was in all of the all of those perfect, we're in the houses, we're doing the thing, we're doing the dances with the hands and the spinning and all of that. And all the guys would go off and they'd go to these really fun sets that they had built for the forts and the battle scenes and into the fields. And I was never allowed to go to that. I would literally sit up on the hill of my trailer watching them all battle down below. And I was like, I'm just not allowed to go. They don't want me there. It was upsetting.
Yeah. The battle scenes are I feel like I'm rubbing salt in the wound. They're good fun in this movie. So let's move on. I'm going to play something else on the big screen. The movie moment that makes you literally or metaphorically pump your fist in the air.
Ready?
Mm-hmm. Hit me.
Dungle.
Right. So here we come to, here we come to something that I've not seen. I did my research. Now, this is a 2016 film. It's an Indian sports drama about wrestling. I did watch the trailer. It looks freaking great.
It's so good.
I love a sports drama as well. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It doesn't matter if I've seen the sport, know the sport or anything. The whole beats of a sports drama. Tell me about this film.
I'm exactly the same. I will always watch an inspirational sports movie, no matter the sport, no matter the genre. I don't need to know anything about it. I'm just along for the ride of underdog, taking over. But to your question, Dungle, it's about Indian wrestling, and the lead, Amir Khan is the lead. He's a brilliant, brilliant actor. And it's about how he had not won a gold medal, and it's based on a true story in wrestling. And then he had hoped to have sons who would kind of take up the moniker and take up the name. And then he only had daughters. And then he trained his daughters in the sport. And then they go on to, kind of reach new heights within the sport. And I don't want to give it away because I think everybody should watch it. But it's one of those movies where you're just screaming at the TV. And then you get, obviously weeping because we have to cry at least once. But it's super moving and it's just very, very good. I've watched that movie multiple times. I was totally taken aback by it when I watched it. And it's just it's a really good movie. So I hope that people go out and see it.
And it does have that beat in it, which I guess is the fist pump moment where, is it the final match? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but is it that moment where you go, it's like the end of Karate Kid. It's like the end of, it's like the end of the longest yacht.
Rudy. Yeah. Remember the Titans, all the things. Yeah. Exactly. There's definitely the final match moment, which is epic. But along the way, there's so many moments as you kind of realize, you're like, oh my God, wait, these girls are pretty good. And it's like I said, it's a true story. So you're very invested along the way, realizing this really took place. The barriers they must have been overcoming during this time, women were not celebrated within the sport. And it's kind of, there's a lot of reasons to kind of get excited and throw your fists in the air throughout the movie. So I recommend the watch.
I love it when someone brings a movie to this show that I've never heard of, that I don't know that as many people as have heard of it as potentially should have done. So thank you for that. Dungle. I'm
Gungle.
gonna look out for it. Brilliant. Right. Conversely, now, if that's a fist pump moment, what do you consider cinema's most shocking moment?
I'm definitely gonna go Pan's Labyrinth, the like farmer bottle scene. That wrecked me. I really was not well after that moment.
Brutal. It's a brutal moment. And do you think it's as shocking as it is because it kind of comes out of nowhere and you don't expect it, or is it just how visceral it is?
I mean, a little bit of both, because obviously you're not expecting it. Obviously, he like smells the bottle, and then all of a sudden, like the son is like trying to advocate for his father, and you don't think that there's this moment where someone's about to get brutally murdered in a way that I've never even heard of. And then obviously it's like so visceral what they show. I don't even know if I really saw the whole thing ever, because I'm pretty sure I just closed my eyes and just threw my hands to my face until it was over. But those first few beats where you aren't expecting it and you're kind of forced to see it, I have no words. It was shocking. And Pan's Labyrinth isn't a beautiful movie. It's just so gorgeous. I love that movie. And it shocked me. I mean, like you said, I don't even have words. I can't even express myself completely because it disturbed me that greatly.
Yeah. It's I think we're constantly going, and now Del Toro's going to cut away, and now he's going to
any minute.
Cut away, and it's just never cutting away. Please stop. Yeah, it's
never. Brutal. It's so brutal. It's so brutal. But obviously, yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just dark. It's dark.
Yeah. Great moment though to answer that question. Cinema's most shocking moment. All right, let's move on to something lighter. What line or piece of dialogue from a movie most affected you?
Oh, I'm gonna go with Breakfast at Tiffany's, the Mean Reds monologue. It's so beautiful.
Oh, so for those who don't know it, give us a breakdown of what Tiffany is. No, she's not called Tiffany. That's the store.
But I hear you. Energetically. Holly.
Thank you. Give us a breakdown of what she's talking about in that scene.
So she's talking. Oh gosh, why is his name blanking? I've seen this movie so many times. The actor who plays opposite her, very handsome blonde gentleman. Killing me. Paul something. So she's talking about how whenever she's upset, she's like, oh, those days where you get the mean reds, and he goes, oh, you mean the blues? And she goes, no, it's the mean reds. It's like where you're basically like you're upset and you're angry and you like don't know how to fix it. And then she talks about how she goes to Tiffany's to calm her down and how she doesn't feel safe. But anytime she's standing in front of Tiffany's, like kind of in that early morning light, she feels totally safe. And if there was a real place in life that could make you feel that way, then she would, buy some furniture and give the cat a name is kind of how she ends the monologue. But yeah, it's just about kind of this feeling of safety. And it's just this really beautiful way of talking about, wanting to put down roots and wanting to feel comfortable. And I think it's a feeling that, we relate to, but I hadn't heard it, given like such specific verbiage before. Like I definitely know that feeling of anxiety and just kind of wanting something that makes you feel safe. And obviously that's what she's constantly searching for, is something that makes her like feel safe and that she could put down roots and stop being this like transient woman. I just think it's so beautifully done. And I mean, Audrey Hepburn, obviously is such an icon, and she's so charming in that movie in particular. It's just kind of takes you there.
Did it hit you? Did it impact you? Did it affect you? From the very first time you saw it, did you go, wow?
Absolutely. I mean, but that whole movie is actually one of my that's probably like top 3 for me. So in that, obviously that monologue in particular is so iconic. I just love it. And I love her. Like I have like a weirdly unhealthy obsession with Audrey Hepburn. To the point of like, I've stayed at her home. I've like talked to her son. Like, it's like truly like there's a whole thing with it.
Wow. Really?
Oh yeah. Like I absolutely love her. I think she's such a brilliant actress. I used to watch her films growing up with my grandmother. It was kind of one of those like early introductions to like film, and where I just kind of attached to her in particular at a young age. And she was another sort of inspiration for why I wanted to also become an actress. And then I just love her story in particular as a human being. And I love the films that she's done. And Breakfast at Tiffany's to me is kind of like that the pinnacle. And it was such an impactful film for the time. You know, I think it was right at the edge of the 60s, and it was the first time that they had ever shown a woman on film like living alone and kind of independent. It changed the history of fashion. Like, there's so much about that film that I find so moving, and that monologue to me kind of encompasses everything. It's kind of wrapped into one.
Yeah, it's I really relate to that idea of when you are young and you watch films and you don't quite understand that these are things that are made by multiple people. You're just sort of almost watching a story unfold on screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's this thing that there's no other bells and whistles to it. It's just there in front of you, and you become very, very involved with what is happening on the screen.
Absolutely. And have you ever seen Eddie Redmayne do that monologue? Have you seen that clip?
No, is it?
Oh,
I'm sure I can find it. What is it?
You gotta watch it. It's good. He does the whole monologue.
Really?
It's from Lynn. I believe it's from Lynn Hirschberg's like screen tests. I think she had this whole series where she talked to actors and filmed them in black and white and talked to them a little bit about just like life and things that move them. And Eddie Redmayne talks about that monologue, and then he launches into the entire monologue, and he's brilliant at it. It's so good. You definitely got to see it.
Right, that's going on the list after this. Yes, Breakfast at Tiffany's. I noticed that you, in your list of all the great things that film achieved, you didn't mention Deep Blue Something's one-hit wonder, Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I said, what about Breakfast at Tiffany's? She said, I think I remember the film.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good, I mean, that's a good one too. Can't be mad. Anytime I hear that, I'm like, this song.
Yeah, if you're going to have one hit, make it a good hit. And that was it. It was great. Right, the penultimate thing we need to do before we finally get to the movie that you have picked to screen for us tonight is for you to tell us what you think the best use of music in a movie is.
Okay, so my answer is a little biased. But for me, it's going to be Pride and Prejudice, a Keira Knightley version. That movie I love. It's probably because I also just love that soundtrack so much. I watched that movie almost every single night and just listened to it for an entire summer when I was in high school, and I would just fall asleep listening to that movie, not even watching it, just because it's the sound and the music to me in it is almost like a character in and of itself. It sets the tone. It's romantic. It's beautiful. I just love that soundtrack. So, but yeah, there may be better answers to that question, but that for me, that one is chef's kiss.
And you are, so this is Dario Marianelli. This is his Oscar-nominated soundtrack to this film. And you say you're biased, and it's because you can't separate the soundtrack from the number of times you watch the film and what that film means to you. Is that why you're biased?
A bit, but to me, it's just I love the movie, of course, like Pride and Prejudice. Pride and Prejudice is a great story, great film. That movie is wonderful, but that soundtrack is so good. I will literally listen to it under anything that I'm doing in life. I will put it on and do anything. I don't know how to describe it, but I just think it's so beautifully done. He did such a wonderful job with that soundtrack, and to me, it feels like its own character, and almost is even better than the film itself. No shade, because I love the whole movie.
That's fine. That's it. We can hear it echoing around the auditorium, and as it fades out, it's time now, Rachele, for you to answer the big question. What movie out of all other films have you picked to screen for us tonight? What are we watching?
We are watching La Vie en Rose.
Tell me why.
I mean, it's because of Marion Cotillard. I mean, that performance is the most brilliant performance I have ever seen by an actress ever. She plays, I mean, for me personally, I mean, she plays her at 3 different ages. She's brilliant as all of them. To me, it was just a study in acting. I think I left with my jaw on the floor. I think she's so extraordinary, especially in that film. I mean, and she's just what I love most about her, because she's such a gorgeous woman. Like, she's so flawlessly beautiful, but that is not the thing that you notice most about her as an actress. She's not afraid to like kind of get in there and get into the ugliness of feeling and, and like the grit of the story. And obviously Edith Piaf's life was so fraught with, I mean, tragedy, and she's just so brilliant in it. I'm never not going to want to show people that movie just to show her off. Honestly, it's just Yeah, Marion Cotillard fangirling.
Do you remember when you first watched it?
Yes, I saw it in New York, and it was at this little theater. I think it's called the Paris Theater. It's next to the Plaza, and they only show like one or two movies at a time. And I used to go watch movies there alone because it's so charming. And I saw that movie alone. And maybe that's also part of why it hit me so hard. But I watched it alone in this theater, and of course, weeping the whole time, and just was completely blown away by just how extraordinary she is. And I just think if you haven't had the opportunity to appreciate the character arc, then it has to be seen. So I will sit you down and I will walk you through it, which is why we're all watching it now. And then we can all have a round table and gush over her brilliance.
Well, the credits roll on Levy, on Rose. People are rearranging the furniture in the auditorium for the upcoming roundtable to discuss that movie. But before you go, as the guests are milling out, smiling, chatting, and thanking you for taking them on a wonderful trip to the movies, we do have one more question. It's time for our mystery question of the week as we ask, what's in the box? So we have our box here. This is a question from one of our dear listeners who we ask for questions each week. And this one, this is from Kieran. And Kieran says, it's quite a big one. What would be your ideal movie role? Is there a character you'd like to play on screen?
I mean, 100%. And I'm about to take you back. I would love to play Audrey Hepburn in a story about the behind the scenes making of Breakfast at Tiffany's and how that film was made and all of the craziness and madness that happened in the making of the film. Kind of My Week with Marilyn style, but Breakfast at Tiffany's. That would be the ultimate dream.
That's a great idea. That's a great. I do wonder in a more general sense why there are not more of these movies. Why? I wonder whether because you're a movie fan, clearly I'm a movie fan. We sort of go, I want to see a movie about the making of a movie, and whether maybe most people don't. But what a great idea!
That would be, yeah. I'm glad that you like it. Hopefully you'll come when, that eventually is made. Hopefully I don't age out of that possibility before it can actually happen. But yeah, that would be the true dream. And I think it's so fascinating. There's so many interesting things that happen behind the scenes of the making of these films, these iconic films. And it's just like bringing those stories to life about the filmmakers, about the actors, about all of the people involved. There's so many important themes to explore, especially about that film. I know we've kind of already addressed this, so I'm taking us back in time a bit. But yeah, that would really send me. I think I could, after my inspirational sports movie, after I'm a part of that, then I'm a part of this, then I could die happy.
That's I think you've hit on something there. I mean, there was a play. It's now on Broadway. It was here in London when I saw it. The Shark is Broken, which does just that. It's the behind the scenes of the making of Jaws, and it's got actors playing Robert Shaw. Well, it's Robert Shaw's son, who's the spitting image of Robert Shaw, and then an actor playing Richard Dreyfuss and an actor playing Roy Scheider.
Oh.
And Jaws is a big one for me. So it's
so great.
Yeah. So I think
that could be up for best soundtrack of a film. Jaws. That could be up.
You can't. We've already played.
We can't do it. Sorry. You're right. I'm locked in. But I didn't know about that play. I had not heard of it. But now I'm excited. I hope it comes to the U.S.
I think it's on Broadway in New York at the moment. Yeah. Yeah. So
gotta head up there.
So yeah, no, I would recommend it. It's very, very good. And I hope your behind the scenes on Breakfast at Tiffany's becomes a reality. And talking of reality, your taxi has arrived to ferry you away from our dimension of film and our virtual cinema back to reality. So all that is left to say is, Rachele, have you had a good time?
I had the best time. You made this so much fun. I appreciate it. I was nervous. I didn't know how this would go, but you made it so lovely and easy to move through. I enjoyed my trip to the movie immensely.
Well, so did I. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you so much for watching this interview. I'd love it if you would check out some of the other interviews on our channel. They're all fascinating and unique trips to the movies with some wonderful, wonderful guests. And if you would like to find out more, do hit us up on our social channels. We are at Trip to Movies Pod. That's at Trip to Movies Pod on all social media with lovely content on there. And you can get in touch with us if you so wish. Thanks again.